On episode 320 of the podcast, we are talking about creating original content and how Doug, my guest, was able to pursue original content that involves 20 days of production, all while running his video production company and doing client work. We also go over the 7 story archetypes that can help you make better films for your clients, plus a couple of bonus archetypes. That's a word I don't use every day. It is archetypes, yeah. And we also talk about the power of thinking like an ad agency, even if you're only a video company of one. All that and more on today's episode. What's up, friend? Hey, welcome to the Grow Your Video Business podcast. I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the show for corporate commercial filmmakers that want to build the business of their dreams through sustainable production business practices. So happy that you're here. This was an engaging, riveting, if you mash those words together, this was such a cool conversation with Doug. He's a total stud, has built this really cool video business, and I'm really excited for you to learn more about what he's doing. There's a lot to learn from this guy. Speaking of building a successful video business, if you are interested, I have what I call my 6-figure filmmaker workshop. If you're not getting the kind of clients that you want to be working with, if your work isn't consistent, if you're not charging what you feel like your work should be charged for, then I invite you to access my completely free workshop where I share my last 18 years of learnings on what has worked well in my video business and what hasn't, and how I've built a 7-figure video production agency today where I've got a studio. That's where I'm at right now. I've got employees that are doing the things. And anyway, I give you all of the things. Okay, not all of the things, but there's a lot of really good nuggets in there. You can get access to this workshop totally for free. It's my gift to you for being here. I appreciate you, and you can go watch that workshop by typing into your browser studiosherpas.com/workshop. Wow, that was hard work. I think that was the hardest thing I've done today so far, to try to get that out. So anyway, love for you to get access to that and dive in to be able to build a better business. That's what I'm here for. That's what this show's all about. And that's what that workshop will help you do. Okay, let's get into this episode with Doug and roll the tape, cue the music. I don't think we have music, but let's go. What is up, my friends? Hey, welcome to another episode. Today, I've got with me Doug Joseph, who is the founder and the CEO of Serif Creative, right down the street. I think, like, if I took I-75 south for like 5 or 6 hours, I think we'd be doing this in person. Doug, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
You are welcome. Thank you for being here. So, remind me here, what's the connect? How did we meet?
Yeah, great question. Our direct connect is Josh Emmerich, one of my favorite people. We've worked together for years. Josh is like a brother. We're constantly collaborating. If I have the opportunity to direct a project, Josh is always my go-to DP. He is just fantastic. His work ethic, his technical skills. So shout out to Josh. Highly recommend following him, and he's just a great all-around filmaker. So
love it. Yeah, so good. Yeah, so you and I connected on LinkedIn because Josh is like, oh, you got to check this guy out. And dude, I went to your site and I'm like, oh my goodness, your branding. And that's why when I messaged you, I was like, your branding, it's so on point. Like your copy, the flow of your site, the way you position yourself, dude. I mean, again, congratulations on just making the experience like jaw-dropping.
Oh, thanks so much. That really means a lot. Yeah, always critical of, your own internal projects, and always think, there's room to be better. The plumber's pipes are never fixed. So it's easy to be critical of, your own work. So that means a lot coming from you.
Well, dude, what's your, what does your work look like? Founder and CEO at Serif. Like, what does your day-to-day, what are your jobs? Do you just collect the money, sit back, guest on podcasts all day long?
Yeah, that's all I do is
talk about how cool you are.
Yeah, happy to share, zooming out, big picture, working on the vision, the strategy, the people, try to work on the business as much as I can. From time to time, I'm more in the business. And what that looks like is if I have the energy and vision, I'll direct projects. If we feel that, I'm not a fit to direct, we'll tag someone in from our team or roster. But day to day, very much focused on relationships, business development, opening and closing accounts, recruiting team members. I want to find the best team members possible. I'm always looking for folks who, get it. Do they have the knowledge? Do they want it? Do they have the desire? And do they have the capacity? Do they have the energy to do the work? So, I love team building. So very much focused on, the people, the process, the product, and making sure things are, running smoothly.
And what's your typical client project? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. For the most part, I would say 80% of our work is client direct. So we're working with, the brand directly. At the start of this year, we actually opened up the other side of the market, and we've, now started working with agencies. And when I founded Serif, I was a freelancer, I was a director, DP, and I decided to work client direct because I felt like I would have more control over the sales cycle rather than relying on producers to send me work. So when I founded Serif, we were a video production company, and then we evolved into an agency. And, we were a video production company for a few years, and then we evolved to an agency because clients would ask us, hey, can you help us with our brand, our website, our strategy? And naturally, being creative and curious, we thought, heck, we could do that. So we evolved into an agency. Did that for 5 years. And then at the start of 2022, decided to pull us back to our roots of just being a content studio. So all that to say, when we were an agency, we weren't collaborating with other agencies because we were perceived as a threat.
Right.
Because if we're working with, say, for example, Nike's agency of record, they wouldn't want to bring us to the table because, they're going to take our strategy. They're going to take our digital work. So now, we can be, a part of their team. We can be a partner. So we've now been collaborating with agencies, which is really cool. But overall, 80% of the work is direct with the client.
Love it. When you're looking at, doing agency work, because I feel like this temptation is there for so many of us, right? To cut out the middleman. It's like, shoot, we could do this. And I know I've had so many conversations with students of mine and people I'm coaching where it's like, well, we could just add we could add ads, right? And start managing ad campaigns. And it's like this slow kind of distraction or potential distraction from really what your heartbeat is, or what our heartbeat is when we start doing video work. It's, storytelling, it's capturing beautiful imagery and all of this stuff. As you look and reflect, are you thankful for that experience? And now, 2023, is there kind of no looking back? You're like, no, this is we're zeroed in. We'll never go back to the agency life. Where are you guys at right now?
Yeah, great question. So done with the agency, thankful for the experience, thankful that we were able to layer in strategy, digital design. I look at it as a detour. We went off the exit ramp, we were going down the state highway, but now we're back on the interstate of being a content studio and making that our focus. But I think what I'm most thankful for, and the reason why we did that, is it scratched the itch. I think I always would have wondered, what if we were to be more than just content? And, thankfully during 2020, it was the agency side of Serif that carried us through. We were able to do strategy and brand work and web work. But I think it now gives us a more holistic view of the work that we are doing because we can think like an ad agency. So it's cool that we got those reps in. And, my insight of working both through agencies and working client direct, there's clients for show, there's clients for dough. And I think if you're working through an agency, you have an opportunity to really do work that propels your portfolio forward.
Yeah.
So if Serif wanted to do work, say with Nike, I'll just use them as like the benchmark,
Sure.
right? You know, Nike, Apple, Adidas, like, you know, those cool, sexy CPG brands, like we can pursue them as a company, and that sales cycle could take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It takes a while to make those inroads meet based on budget, based on timing. But most likely they already have an agency of record.
Right.
And as a content studio, it's best for us to just operate through them.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that if you're working with clients, you know, for dough to keep the lights on, to keep things moving forward, you're usually working more so with like B2B brands more so than B2C. Their needs are more immediate, the timing, they're more accessible. That's just kind of like my takeaway and summary of like the difference of working with client direct and agency.
Yeah. Is there a kind of client or a kind of project today that you just, when you guys land it, you're like, yes, I'm doing whatever I can to be a part of this project?
Yes. Story films, 100%, because stories are bread and butter.
Yeah.
That's what Serif was founded on. That's one of our key pillars. My background goes really deep in storytelling. I learned that in my grandma's biker bar. So growing up, my grandma owned a biker bar.
Did you say your grandma had a biker bar?
Yeah. So it's funny, like one of my coaches, like I was just chatting with one of my coaches one day and I told him that, like he was helping me prep for like a talk. And he's like, wait, you're raised in a biker bar? I'm like, yeah.
Dude,
and I was like, yeah, I used to take, I can send you some. So I was like, yeah, I'd take naps on the pool table. He's like, what? And I just thought it was normal, right? Like I didn't think anything of it. He's like, dude, that's so cool. And I was like, you know, I think that's like kind of my origin. Like the foundation of who I am was really built there because I would hang out with like bikers and laborers, and I had my own bar stool and I would just sit and talk with them. And so I was just babysat there, you know, a couple of days throughout the week when my mom and dad were working. So, you know, storytelling's always been in my DNA. And when we kick off projects, it's all about the story structure. And, you know, that's where I love to live and camp out. It's like, what kind of story are we going to tell? And just looking at, you know, the 7 story archetypes and really figuring out like which one makes the most sense. And I think that is like, I don't want to say it's the most important thing, but if you can nail that, everything else just kind of naturally falls in place once you dial in the story structure.
Yeah. That's amazing. What was the name of the biker bar?
Yeah. So, the biker bar was on Sharon Avenue in my hometown of Zanesville, Ohio. And the name of the bar was The Sharon because it was on Sharon Avenue.
That's so good. So this is very ignorant of me, but the 7 story archetypes, fill us in. What are those? Maybe I should probably know those. Yeah.
So a few years ago, I was in Seattle. I was meeting with an agency owner, and the agency is Belief Agency, and the owner's name is, I believe, Jesse, if memory serves me correct. And we were just talking shop, and he put me on the spot and just said, "How do you guys do your story structure?" And I didn't really have a clear answer. I was like, "Oh, like hero's journey, you know, that sort of thing."
Yeah.
So then it caused me to really dive deep and look into it. So within those 7 archetypes, based on like what the client wants and the type of story they want to tell, usually it's going to fall into one of these 7. So number 1, overcoming the monster. Number 2, rags to riches. Number 3, the quest. Number 4, voyage and return. Number 5, comedy. Number 6, tragedy. And then last one, rebirth. So those 7, like if I watch a film, if I read a book, if I read a script, I could typically identify, oh, this is the story of the quest, which would be, you know, Lord of the Rings. The story of rags to riches, that's Rocky. You know, overcoming the monster, James Bond. You know, there's a very clear-cut protagonist and a very clear-cut antagonist. So depending on what type of story you want to tell, if you look at those 7, that's a great jumping off point or a great place to, you know, build your foundation.
Dude, that's so good. I have heard of probably all of those. in some way, shape, or form. I've never seen them in like one thing. Like, where did you like? Again, this is my own ignorance. It's like in our thing is like, yeah, we're storytellers. Like we love, you know, brand storytelling. That's very important to us. So please enlighten me. I'm taking notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to, you know, share some insights there. A lot of my knowledge and a lot of my understanding comes from one author, and his name is Joseph Campbell. He wrote the book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. So a lot of, you know, my storytelling knowledge comes from him. So I probably have to give most of my credit to him.
And so he kind of goes through those 7 archetypes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And, you know, out of those 7, there are some nuances that aren't included. And the 2 that I've kind of just added to the 7 of my own is mystery and coming of age.
Oh, cool.
I think those are kind of in their own class.
Yeah.
So there's 7, but I've identified 9.
Yeah. I love it. And then like out of those archetypes, when you're approached by a brand, is there one that resonates with you the most, that you just connect with? You're like, man, I hope that they fit in this one right here.
Oh, great question. For me, it's rags to riches, because I love, you know, a good underdog story, overcoming the odds. It just hits me to my core anytime I'm listening or watching a rags to riches story. So that's probably my go-to.
Yeah. Are you a football fan at all?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a hardcore Cleveland Browns fan. Sadly, it's a life of pain and misery.
Well, welcome to my life, Detroit Lions fan. Although there's finally, for the first time in my entire life, where there's excitement, even though our season is over, we're just like, crud, this was a rebuilding year, and look at us go. But you talk about an underdog story. Did you watch Hard Knocks at all?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a hardcore fan of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
I love, you know, sports. It's a lot of it is a microcosm of life. And, you know, I grew up boxing, MMA, football. So like, you know, that always really connects with me. So, but yeah, I have to like cut myself off. Otherwise we'll just keep talking about football.
But I'm in the same sort of place. You know, I played football in high school, played baseball. People always ask me like, oh, Michigan State, like who you rooting for? And honestly, it's like, I'm like usually, except for this year, I'm always the underdog. Like I want the underdog to win, you know? And it's just like, it's, you know, when I played football, I was like super small. I was playing offensive line. I weighed like 150 pounds. And that was my coach was very good at like, you know, just encouraging me and sharing with the team like, Coral, you know, he's 150 pounds soaking wet and he's going against guys that are 3 times his weight. And so that I was just like, yeah. So the underdog for me, it just has a different meaning, but definitely is very, very close to my heart. So 2023, we're kind of at the beginning of the year here. What are you really, really excited about this year?
Yeah, great question. What I'm most excited about this year is original content. So when I founded Serif, the goal was to, you know, produce my own films, produce my own content. Yeah. And I wanted to do that, but not work the Hollywood circuit. I wanted to DIY it. I just thought it'd be, you know, more cool that way. So Serif is finally at a point where we're able to, you know, DIY that. We're able to make our own original content. So over the last few years, we've been pretty heads down on an independent documentary series. And I can talk a little bit about it. So a few years ago, I had a dream that I produced a documentary about dirt track racing. And that was the dream. And I actually had forgotten about the dream. Oh, yeah. And my wife one day on vacation was like, hey, Doug, you need to start another business. You need to make a movie. You need to do something else besides Serif. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll do that. So I was like taking a walk on the beach and I was like looking through my Twitter because I just treat it like a journal. Like I just tweet things to myself. And I tweeted that dream to myself that I produced a documentary about dirt track racing, and the name of it was Dirt Diamonds. That was the dream. And after we got back on vacation, I decided to bring it to life. So over the last 2 years, we've been traveling all over the country, all over the Midwest, producing it. And it's been a wild ride. It's the story of outlaws, underdogs, troublemakers, chasing one prize, a win at Eldora. And we have fights, we have wrecks, like so much drama. And the way I describe it, it's kind of like there's like an element of Tiger King in it.
Yeah.
And if you imagine like F1 racing and a rodeo had a baby, that's Dirt Diamonds. So the goal is to sell it to a streaming platform.
Yeah.
We've been in talks with Disney. So what platform it ends up on, whether it's, Disney on Hulu or Netflix, Amazon, we're hoping to close out the sale at the start of probably Q2 of this year.
Okay.
So we've been cutting it. But that's one example of original content. And right now my heart's really been, focused on documentaries.
Yeah.
That's the season of life I'm in right now. So there are a few other documentaries I want to bring to life, a few that are in development, a few in pre-production. And then at some point, once I, got those crossed off, want to focus on features. But Serif is, broken up into two parts now. We have the commercial side and original content side. And a great example of that is A24. Like they started out on the narrative side, and they have a commercial division called The Lab. So Serif is the inverse. We started out in commercial, and now we're getting into narrative. So to answer your question, original content, that's what really gets me lit up right now.
That's really cool. Speaking of, this is A24. Did they just come out with a new, or are they coming out with a new film with is it Joaquin Phoenix? Did you see this?
I'm not sure.
I saw this super bizarre trailer earlier today, and I think I remember seeing their logo, but don't really ever pay attention to stuff like that. I'm not sure. I haven't been keeping tabs on what A24 is putting out, but I'm a huge fan of their work. It probably is theirs because it seems pretty wild, but also seems like really, really cool at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I love that. Congrats on getting your biz to a place where you can do something that so many of us dream about doing. How do you get to that place? Because
that's a great question. The
struggle for so many of us is, especially like my struggle is, I would love to do that, right? It's on my vision boards and my goals of like, we're creating content, right? No longer are we being dictated by clients and whatever, but we're doing what we want to do. And in order to do that, like we have to have some type of revenue coming in that we're not having to think too hard about, right? It's happening so that we're like, cool, we've got, 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 10 weeks where we can focus on this original content idea. So how like, what are the main parts in your business that have allowed you to get to that place where you can create this piece?
Yeah, great question, Ryan. So, let's camp out here because, I asked myself that question, and then overnight it just suddenly happened, and I can unpack how that happened. So, long story short, commercial work is great. I will always do it.
Yeah.
I love to serve. I love to help companies. The grass is, never greener on the other side. It's where you're watering it. Yeah. So like the same struggles that you have with client work also exist in producing your own. That's just the reality.
Right.
So that said, my goal was always to get to a point where we had the financial ability to make that investment.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really a magic number that I was working toward.
Right.
But it happened overnight, and here's how. So pre-2020, we bought a building in downtown Columbus. And during COVID, it was just sitting. It wasn't an asset. Our team wasn't reporting in. Yeah. And one of my team members, Audrey Plant, our chief of staff, she's fantastic. She kept advocating to sell the building. And I kept kicking the can. I was like, you know what? I'm going to hold on to this till I'm 50, 60 years old. but she kept saying like, hey, you need to sell this. We're not using it. So I said to her, I was like, look, like I'll sell it, but you do it. Like make it so it's super easy for me and I just have to like sign a paper. Cause like I'm not going to do it. So like she put it on the market, like she did it all, found like a great real estate agent and it sold in one day. So like the building sold in one day. It was just insane. And, you know, they gave us our asking price. I didn't try to, you know, ask for more. I was like, this is super easy. Let's just do it. So then after that played out, you know, we had a decent return and wasn't sure, you know, where to deploy those dollars. So I took a third of it and invested it into the documentary that is now Dirt Diamonds. So that's how it worked for us. But ultimately, the timing will never be right. You just have to make it happen. Even with Dirt Diamonds, like I knew what I wanted. I knew what story I wanted to tell. I knew what characters I wanted. And there were 3 characters I wanted in the film. We kicked off the production when we had 2 of the characters cast and we didn't even have our third. But I was like, let's just keep going. We'll find that third person. And we did. So I think to answer your question, Ryan, there's never a great time. You just have to make it happen.
Yeah, that's good. There's never the perfect time. It's like, oh, when should we get married, or when should we buy our house, or when should we have kids?
Exactly.
It's like there's no like, when should I start my business? It's like you just have to do it, right? It's just not.
It's as crazy as it sounds. Like every team member we hire, I am stressed. Like, oh, can we do this? I think we have enough runway.
Yeah.
And same with kids. Like, you know, I wasn't prepared to have our first kid or a second kid, but I'm so glad we did because you just figure it out. And that's the secret. You just kind of figure it out.
Yeah, we've been figuring things out for like lots and lots and lots and lots of years. So, but it's easier on the other side to be like, I mean, look at us now, you know, versus like, we're for sure building it as we go. And it's not as pretty as we want it to be. And all the things. Oh, for sure. Analysis paralysis is a real thing. Yeah. So I've always tried to err on the side of like execution, tactics. You know, I try to just like get into it as much as I can. Oh man, I love that. Do you feel like, I mean, if you're comfortable sharing numbers, amazing. At some point, like, does the documentary, like when you sell this thing, if you sell it for less than, you know, X amount, you're going to be like, oh geez, like, we definitely didn't get our investment back. Because I think what's really interesting about what you're doing and where you're at, there are a lot of people that could say like, shoot, man, Doug did this and, you know, obviously had a little seed money, but we could all, I think, get some seed money, right? Whether it's investments from, you know, parents, friends or whatever, say like, hey, give us, you know, this much. And then the hope is that we're able to turn around and sell it to somebody. At the end of the day, you know, it's like, well, the experience is great. It's helpful. It's fun. It was fulfilling, blah, blah, blah. But shoot, man, if you could make a living, like if you could like go from this project to like, all right, we're going to do our next original piece of content. Like that would be the dream, right? That you make more than enough that it's like you're getting paid and you've got some more runway to work on the next thing. What does any of that look like that you're comfortable sharing? Yeah, happy to share. I mean, Dirt Diamonds, like from day one, I saw it as a way to parlay ourselves to the next level. Yeah. So I always saw a season 2, but there were 2 other documentary projects I wanted to bring to life after. And I, you know, crunched all the numbers and I was like, you know, if this sells at the dollar amount that I think it will, we can get to the next level and then the next level. Yeah. So when the project kicked off, I estimated that we could get what we wanted in 20 days of production, right? Yep. And I wanted to be very focused and get in, get out. Like I knew what I wanted. And I spoke to, you know, one of my friends who's a vet in documentary filmmaking. And we kicked off the project. I told him, you know, we were aiming at around 20 days of production. He's like, I think you're going to need more time than that, Doug. Mm. And he was absolutely right. So, you know, I think now we're on day 60. Woo! Like this upcoming Thursday, we have a shoot in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're filming one of our drivers. And so because of that, you know, the budget
essentially tripled.
Right.
So I tagged in a few friends, family. I have 3 investors in the film. I could have kept putting dollars into it, but it's got to a point where I got to invest in other things. And, you know, my wife's going to kill me if I just keep putting money into this documentary. So, you know, if it were to break even, you know, I'd still consider that a win. But I have, you know, a multiplier in mind that I think it's worth. But one thing I will say that's come out of it is the filmmakers that I've been able to connect and hire through it. So just to like give an analogy. So the movie Fight Club, they have, you know, the Fight Club, and then there's Project Mayhem. If somebody gets through Fight Club, they get to be a part of Project Mayhem. So Dirt Diamonds was Serif's Fight Club. So if somebody had what it takes to be on the set of Dirt Diamonds, because we were running hard, like, you know, 12-hour days. We're filming in the dirt, you know, very volatile environment, like some of the worst shooting conditions I've ever been a part of. Like, I think there was one day I clocked my steps. I think it was like 15, 20 miles, like, because we're just constantly on the go. So like through the filming of Dirt Diamonds, there were 2 filmmakers that really separated themselves from the pack. And that was Nick Momomi, one of our cam ops, and Sam Thompson, our audio tech. And because of that, you know, they're on the Serif team now. And so that's one great thing that's come out of doing this project. So whether there's intangibles and then, you know, there's tangibles. So if you're considering, you know, making one of those projects, you know, doing your own original piece, highly recommend doing it. Just get into it. Get in the game.
60 days, is that both filming, like, does that include post as well?
No.
Wow.
Yeah, we've logged about 60 days, but I left one part out. So I originally envisioned it as a series. I figured that'd be the best way to tell it. But I saw it as, once we got into a documentary, 90 minutes. However, the first year filming, it ended on such a cliffhanger. I was like, man, we gotta run it back. We're gonna do it again. So because it landed on a cliffhanger, we did another year, and now it's a series. So I wanted it to be a series day one. But I was like, you know, I want to create like a dense film, and I knew it could be dense if it was a documentary. I didn't want to dilute ourselves too much, but because we filmed for so long, it actually was able to be a series. And there's no rule of thumb. You know, there are some days like we'll film, you know, for a day and maybe get a couple minutes, you know, a couple sound bites here and there. So some people like to say, oh, like for every hour you film, you'll get, you know, 1 minute or 10 minutes of usable footage. That's not the case. Like, you can't control it. And with documentary work, you're capturing, you're letting things unfold. Whereas a feature film, it's scripted. So documentary, you know, it's easier on the pre-production side because you don't have to script it. You're just capturing, but the production time is much longer. A feature film, you can script it, you can control that, but the production time is much less. Like, you can do a feature in 3 months of production, but we're on year 2 of Dirt Diamonds. And I think that's the biggest difference from what I've been able to experience of doing doc work versus feature work.
That's cool. Let's play a game here. Let's pretend like this project was incredibly efficient for you. You were able to do somewhat closer to your 30 days of production that you were envisioning starting out with. And then you go to start shopping this around. So I'm a filmmaker. I'm thinking like, okay, Doug's done this. Okay, 30 days of production. That sounds like a lot, right? That sounds like, I mean, it's just like, it's a lot of days of filming. But let's just say I see some runway. I think we can swing 30 days of filming this year. We'll somehow find the time to edit, and then we're going to start pitching this. What do you think is like a range that people can think? Because I've literally no idea if I was to take something that we've done to Netflix.
Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. It's no different than any other outbound B2B sale. So like, you're the seller, they're the buyer. And, you know, I'm happy to kind of get real here, but I've thought about this project not just as a filmmaker, but as a marketer too. So for Netflix, they're looking for three things. They're looking for big characters, they're looking for global appeal, and they're looking for unique access. So unique access meaning, oh, I'm seeing this for the first time. You know, for example, Tiger King. Oh, I didn't know people own
Right.
exotic animals in America.
Yep.
So you feel like you're watching something that's, very foreign, very unique.
Yep.
So that's the three things they're looking for. But ultimately, they want to grow their market share. So how is this film that you're producing going to grow their market share? So what we have done, we're not just coming to them with a film. We're coming with them with a pre-built audience. We have, thousands of people who've already committed to watching this film. Like, we have a pre-watch list.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I've been able to crunch the numbers of like, what's the long-term value of a customer for Netflix? And for the dollar amount that we have in mind, if they get to X amount and new customers as a result of this film, it pays for itself and then some. So we're not just thinking about it as a filmmaker. Like, I'm putting on my like agency marketing hat and my filmmaker hat at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, but from like a realistic, any stories you've heard, numbers that you have in mind, something like this, like what is like a rough range that somebody could expect to make off of something like this?
Yeah, I've had filmmaker friends of mine sell documentaries and documentary series to platforms, not just Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, but to Lifetime, to ESPN. And some have made, $250,000, some have made $1 million, some have made $1 million plus.
Yeah.
For us, the floor is $1 million, the ceiling is $3 million.
Yeah.
But the way we've crunched our numbers and the way we've built out the pre-watch lists and how they can grow their market share, the 3 million range is within reason.
Yeah.
So that's how we've built it out. But it is one of those things that is intangible. Like, what's anything worth? It's up to the buyer. Like, they determine that. There really isn't like a playbook of how they do their evaluation criteria. And something else to consider, like if you're in the business of shopping original content, you don't have to go to those platforms yourself. Like, you can work through an entertainment attorney and they can work on contingency and take care of that for you. But I love sales, I love business development, plan on being a part of the full sales cycle. So I think it's cool we're camping out on original content. I actually had no intention of talking about this today,
well,
or
so
really talking about dirt diamonds.
Yeah. We've, I did a survey recently with our audience, and such a huge percentage when I just said, if you could wave a magic wand and like you've got everything that you want from your business, like what are you doing? And it was probably like 60 or 70% of people saying like, man, if I could just direct and we could, create, they didn't say necessarily original content, but like do whatever the heck I want in the world of film. Like, it's just like, we're all just, we got into this work because we loved the aspects of storytelling and being able to capture people in their elements and like that. And it's like, wow, like we can create emotion. But then it's like, okay, well, it's hard to make a living at that. Just like, interviewing my grandpa, like nobody's paying for that, but he's got this incredible story and it's beautiful and it's amazing. It's like, okay, who's going to pay for that? Oh, well, the lawyer down the street needs a day in the life film. Okay, well, that's kind of close. Okay, I'll do that. And I got to charge this much. And then you got all these clients and you got to do what they want. And then you sort of lose a little bit of that, like the piece that I'm really excited about is, filming these dirt races and car people and, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, we all got into this business because we love to make. We're artists. We want to express ourselves. We want to make people feel something.
Yeah.
But what I've boiled it down to, and if you're a filmmaker and you're listening to this, like, I hope this really connects. So if you're making, you're not producing. Sorry, if you're making, you're not selling, and if you're selling, you're not making. So you have to decide, am I going to be freelancer or an entrepreneur. A freelancer, most likely you're a one-man show, and you are exchanging your time and resources as an individual. An entrepreneur, you're creating an environment where you can step away and the business can make money without you. That's just like my boiled down version of what a freelancer and an entrepreneur is. An entrepreneur is building a team. So you have to decide, like, which one do you want to be?
Yeah.
Because if you're a freelancer, it's really easy to, I want to direct, I want to DP, I want to focus on doing the things I'm good at. You want to express your technical skills. And I think that's where most filmmakers, want to put their energy naturally. But when you're doing that, when you're on set, you're not selling. So you have to like walk that tightrope of making sure that you're giving equal attention to both making and selling. I think that's the toughest part.
Yeah.
So eventually I was able to do that because I was a freelancer and I hired an editor because I was spending so much time editing, and that freed me up to then bring in new business, and the rest is history. So neither one is right or wrong. It just comes down to your appetite and what you want. Some days I wish I were a freelancer, and some days I'm so thankful to be an entrepreneur. It's up to you.
Well, the beautiful thing,
right
I love, man, just even how you're saying that. When and this was the same fork in the road that I came to, where I was like, man, I can keep improving on my filmmaking skills, but at the same time, we just had our second kid, and becoming a better filmmaker is not going to make me much more money at this point, because we're already charging, like, we're one of the most expensive companies out there. And I was sort of taking the business, like treating it like a hobby. And I had to decide, do I want to improve my filmmaking, or do I really want to improve as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, so that, and my goal here is so that I can have the freedom to decide. So that if I do want to film, or if I do want to hop in and edit a project, or I do want to storyboard, I do want to do any of those aspects of filmmaking that I think are so cool and so fun and so life-giving, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's making a profit, has, money coming in that doesn't require me to always be on, and I can choose. Like, that's the dream. That's what I'm trying to build.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, just having the freedom to choose what you want to work on or not work on. I think that's what a lot of us are working toward. But I think it would be helpful, like, for your audience, like, let's do another episode. Give me 6 months, give or take, and we can run it back, and I can tell the full story on Dirt Diamonds and what it's been like on the distribution side of it. And I can then tell the full story, because right now we're at like the 75% mark.
Yeah.
So I can have more insights to share, because the questions you're asking are the questions I had myself.
Yeah.
And there is no playbook. Yeah. There are no resources online. It's no different than any other outbound B2B sales cycle in terms of getting in front of the buyer and shopping it, So back in the day, you had to work film festival circuits.
Yeah.
And big studios would see what's coming out of film festival circuits. And that's still common, but it's not as common as it used to be, because now filmmakers have the power to go right directly to the platform, which wasn't the case 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, let's plan on this. October is the next Onward Summit, and we'll have you come up. Maybe we can do a screening of the film, or at least parts of it, and we'll do some Q&A and do a deep dive into all of that.
Count me in.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, this is so good. Really love that I think accidentally ended up talking about original content, but it's something that I think is stirring in so many of us. So appreciate that, Doug. How can people keep up with this film and everything else that you guys have going on?
Yeah, great question. I'm most active on 2 platforms. I've been spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. I think it's cool. And that's where I connect with a lot of my friends and clients and audience, is through LinkedIn. So you can find me there. URL is DC Joseph, the number 1. And then Instagram, I'm moderately active, and my handle's DC Joseph. And Serif, you can check out our work, and that's serifcreative.com. And personal brand website, dcjoseph.com.
Love it. Dude, thank you so much. How do you want to leave us today, Doug?
That is a great question. I feel like I should give some sort of quote. Let me think. You put me on the spot. So control the controllables. There's only so many things you can control. It doesn't do you any good to think and get distracted by the things you can't control. So if you want to have a level of control, it all starts with preparation. So if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So really focus on the preparation. And the way I think of preparation is through the 3 Ps. That's planning, that's poise, and precision. So whether it's on your business or a production, it all starts with the preparation. And if you get that dialed in, like the inputs will give you the outputs you want. So can control the controllables and dial in the preparation. I think that's probably my insight.
I love it. So good. Thanks again, Doug. Really appreciate it. Excited for this film. I'm really looking forward to you saying, dude, we got $3 million for it. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's the ceiling. Based on the blood, sweat, and tears I put in, I don't even know that I could put a price tag on it.
Right, totally.
So, yeah. But yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan. Keep up the great work, and let me know if you need anything. And this has been so much fun.
Awesome. Appreciate it. All right, my friend, I hope you enjoyed episode 320. You can get the show notes by going to studiosherpas.com/320. All the links, the things that Doug and I talked about, or DC, as I call him now. Leave a comment if you're watching this video on YouTube or Facebook. Leave a comment. Let me know, what is your big takeaway from this discussion with Doug? Where are you at? Like, are you wanting to do original content? Would working on something for 20 days, just production plus all post days, does that sound intriguing and enticing? And wouldn't you like to be able to do that, knowing that you're still making money from your day job, hopefully? I just thought that was fascinating. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget about my free workshop, the 6-Figure Filmmaker Workshop, where I'm going to pull the curtain back and share with you the things that have worked best for me building this business that I run today. So you can get that at studiosherpas.com/workshop. If you really like this episode or you like the show, take a screen grab, share it with a filmmaker friend that you think would enjoy it as well. I would hugely appreciate that. Thank you in advance for sharing this. I do appreciate you, and like you just a little bit more if you share it. Just kidding. It's like telling my kids which one is their favorite. It's fun to do. It's funny, but they can't really know which one is the favorite. Okay, my friend, I appreciate you so much. I will see you on next week's episode. Until then, bye for now.